The simpler days of "let them fight" seem a distant memory, as what unfolds is a relentless onslaught of increasingly ridiculous twists and turns that challenge the boundaries of plausibility even.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care.
So you can suck my dick if you don't like my shit.
Oh boy, it's about that time. Godzilla x Kong The New Empire just released, and that shit was pretty dope. I had a blast. But something I'd love to do after seeing a movie like this is to take a look at the Rotten Tomato reviews and see what negative things the critics have to say about it. Honestly, it usually seems to happen a lot with these MonsterVerse movies for some reason. So what I want to do today is just pull up some critic reviews, take a look at them, and just kind of laugh at them really. But why do this? Well, because I think most media journalists and critics in general are just really disconnected from like what the actual audiences enjoy. And in particular with a movie like this, or any of the MonsterVerse movies really, the critic reviews and their audience reviews seem to differ greatly. I mean, hell, as recording this, the critics have an average score of 54%, while the audience is at a 92%. This is an even bigger difference than Godzilla vs. Kong, which was a 76% to a 91%. Yeah, so it's safe to say that audiences and critics are very split on this one, and they just have like polar opposite opinions. But enough dilly-dally, let's go ahead and look at what the critics are actually saying. And just a side note, I'm not going to be looking at the full reviews, I'm only going to be looking at like the little blurs that show up for the reviews. Alright, you ready? Let's get into it. From a radioactive roar in 2014 to an atomically terrible death in 2024, the MonsterVerse is getting long in the decaying tooth. Yeah, I couldn't disagree more. Honestly, ever since 2014, I've been enjoying these MonsterVerse movies just more and more. I mean, King of the Monsters was a little bit of a downgrade, but I still found it to be pretty rad. And I feel like each one upped the ante and just got bigger and bigger and just way more fun. And considering they only release these movies every like 2 to 3 years, I feel like they don't overstay their welcome or feel oversaturated. Godzilla x Kong is the epitome of a popcorn flick. While it's not providing much in the way of characters, death, or storyline, it makes up for it with entertaining action and dumb yet fun fight sequences. Yeah, I agree, Godzilla x Kong is a popcorn flick through and through, and it's so much fun. And let's be real here, most of the time, the characters, like the human characters, are most people's least favorite part of these movies. So the fact that they actually downsized it a little bit was just a huge plus, at least to me anyway. Director Adam Wingard tries but can't make the action mayhem hold our attention. It's never more than pointless carnage, and the filmmaking blithely ignores the millions of humans who perish in all this full-on destruction.
Hey! Ain't nobody trying to hear that bullshit.
These films may be empty, but they can be strangely stimulating. Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, however, is the MonsterVerse at its weakest. Its spectacle is even duller than its story, which is already nonsensical. Not to give away too much here, but yeah, the story is very simple, but like the lore that they added to Hollow Earth. Yeah, it may be a little weird, a little strange, but you know what? I think it fits perfectly. Especially with how absurd these movies have gotten, I think the way they expanded the lore was done pretty well. And with the story being nonsensical, I actually thought it was like really straightforward. It's less convoluted than how these MonsterVerse movies have been in the past. By the time we get to the climactic desert battle smashing the pyramids, there's no impact left. This is a repetitive series of chest-thumping monsters, shrieking CGI, familiar characters, a thin plot, using impressive sound design with lots of campy music. And you know what? It was fucking awesome. I've already mentioned it before, but I'm gonna mention it again. I personally don't feel like these movies have like really worn out their welcome yet. They're not oversaturated, and they seem to actually take their time on them. So I really don't feel like it's repetitive yet. If anything, they keep expanding it in ways that I didn't really think of. As far as the campy music is concerned, yeah, it's campy, but it fits so well, and it's so much damn fun. If you want to see massive creatures leveling cities, that's exactly what you'll get. If you look for anything more than that, well, you should know by now that you're in the wrong place.
Okay.
Now you say that like it's a bad thing. Yeah, I feel like people know what to expect from these movies at this point, so why would you go into a MonsterVerse movie, especially at this point, expecting anything else besides absolute carnage and mayhem, and really just having a blast? These last couple movies have set a very clear, distinct style and tone that they're going for. The underwhelming effects give you new appreciation for what Godzilla -1 did at a fraction of the cost. Okay, good. I'm happy he mentioned -1, because I'm getting tired of people bringing up -1. There's several reviews in here that mention Godzilla -1 and how this one fails in comparison. You got this one here is saying if they do another MonsterVerse movie, they should turn them over to Takahashi Yamazaki, because he knows how to do it right. Okay, look at this one, where Godzilla -1 made the kaiju a metaphor that was arc and moving, thereby raising the emotional stakes as Tokyo crumbles and blah 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 blah. Now check out another one. Last year, the Japanese film Godzilla -1 proved that a monster movie can contain compelling human drama. At last, that's not the case with Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. Okay, so let me tell you why I'm tired of the -1 comparisons. Yeah, Godzilla -1 was a good movie. It's also a very different Godzilla Godzilla movie. And people who say stuff like this seem to forget that Godzilla has a whole eras where Godzilla is just a little bit goofy. He's very silly, he's very over the top, but he also has movies where he's pretty serious. So when I see comparisons and reviews like this, it's honestly just pretty boring because it feels like it's these people's first time seeing a serious Godzilla movie. And they're just blown away by the fact that yes, these movies can have drama and be serious. They're just a couple decades behind. So now you see something like the MonsterVerse, which like I said earlier, has a very distinct style and tone that it's purposely going for, and decides to compare the two, even though they're vastly different. And that's intentional. They're both going for very different things. And ironically, they tend to forget that the MonsterVerse has a very serious Godzilla movie, Godzilla 2014, which apparently critics absolutely loved. I don't know, to me, just comparing the two just seems like a waste of time. And I'm not a huge Godzilla fan. I mean, I've seen these MonsterVerse movies, I've seen the animated show, I've seen a couple of the Japanese ones, but yet even I know that Godzilla has been changed several times. He's been in dozens of different stories. Hell, a lot of them involve aliens and shit. So Godzilla can get pretty damn wild. But again, on the flip side, he can be very scary and very serious too. So basically what I'm saying is, both of these can coexist without having to compare the two, or at least using one to demonize the other. Hell, you know what? I'm gonna do this. Let's say I'm a huge MonsterVerse fan, I didn't like -1. I could say something stupid like, -1 had a dark, dreary, and gloomy tone, and there weren't that many kaijus or monster battles. It had way too much focus on the human characters. So yeah, overall a pretty dull experience, because I expect big fights in my monster movies. Yeah, you see how dumb that sounds? Sorry to get all worked up, but I've been seeing this comparison online, and it's just so annoying. And it always comes from people who don't have that much exposure to Godzilla. So when I see them say stuff like this, it just makes me roll my eyes. Yo, that reminds me, anyone else remember that terrible Dr. Skipper video about the Godzilla -1? That's the kind of energy that I feel like right here.
Your word don't mean shit around here.
Okay, I got off track for a bit. Let's get back to some of these reviews. Par for the course for the MonsterVerse series. The monsters have more personality than the humans, but at least watching them battle and smash things has some visceral entertainment value. You know what, I was actually impressed how much personality they were able to give Kong in this movie. And the human characters in this movie are just kind of there. And at this point, they're just kind of having fun with it. Again, I love how much attention the monsters got in this film. Pure MonsterVerse fantasy. The plot is a means to an end, a mode of transport to watching our Titan giants pulverize Rio de Janeiro and tail slap one another. Yeah, and what's wrong with that? I see absolutely nothing wrong with what you just said. Dumbed down and stripped of the symbolic subtext of the earlier movies. The picture is not without seat-shuddering thrills, but it's like a tag team wrestling bout for monsters, rather than a picture with meaning, or even a modicum of thought. Yeah, this guy just saw Godzilla -1. Now, by earlier films, does he mean the earlier MonsterVerse films? Because realistically, there's only like one genuinely serious one, then one that's kind of like a hybrid with Godzilla King of the Monsters, but the rest are clearly way more over the top and fun. Or is he talking about older Godzilla films? And well, if he is, like I already mentioned, there's whole eras and even decades where Godzilla was very different. Yeah, so I don't really get this one. Terrible in every other conventional way.
Boy, ain't no way, boy.
Godzilla x Kong is as big and as loud as expected, but when the dust is settled, there's nothing to hold on to. The kaiju clash is a crushing bore. I don't know if we saw the same movie, but this thing was a non-stop joyride. Seriously, it was just so much fun from start to finish. And for a 2-hour movie, it really just flew by. I'll be honest with you guys, I think I'm about done reading all these. Not for real, I actually have like a lot more screenshotted, I'll just throw them on screen, but I'm getting kind of bored of reading them. And by now, I think you kind of get the point. Most critics seem to see this movie as nothing more than just big, dumb, stupid, and loud, with no deeper meanings and symbolism, and basically not being -1. But ironically, that's probably the same reason why so many people like it. It's big, it's fun, it's action-packed, the monsters are front and center. Yeah, it's a little goofy, it's very silly, human characters aren't really that good, but the movie kind of knows that, and just has fun with it. I plan to have a review out here soon, and I'm pretty certain I'm going to work like -1 somewhere into the title, you know, for the algorithm. But if you want to know my thoughts now, the movie was a lot of fun, I had a blast with it. It just goes so much bigger and more wild than the last movie did, and I was just all for it. Alright, that's going to about do it, so see ya.
You cops.
Hey Miles, you busy?